You know you're in trouble if you find yourself sitting on a chair or a sofa with Jeremy Kyle. So imagine what it'd be like if he showed up knocking on your door.
Which he does, of course, for the second series of his investigative show, The Kyle Files. He confronts some of the UK's biggest social issues and takes the fight out of the studio and onto the streets. Let's have a look.
The pros are that you can use the internet to snare these people, but the cons of the internet, the very system that allows you to trace these people, is the system by which these people are snaring kids. Do you know what I mean?
That's the good side and the bad side of it, but it'll always be there.
And you're not vigilantes, are you?
No.
Vigilantes taking the law into your own hand. We never took the law into our own hands.
What are those guys up to?
A couple of guys from Newcastle called Dark Justice. I mean, the show tonight, it's a 6-part series. The show tonight's about the internet. And, of course, the internet is central to all of our lives, but there is a dark side. 3 facets really tonight. These guys, Dark Justice, are what they call paedophile hunters. They were a couple of men in their 20s concerned that was happening in their area, and they decided to do it, pretend that they were being groomed online. The difference between Dark Justice and other organisations, because people will sometimes say it's a witch hunt, is they actually, 5 minutes before the sting, they give the information to the police. So the police are completely aware. I think they've made 6 or 7 convictions in the last 12 months, which for me as a father actually is fantastic. That side of the show...
But they're a vigilante group.
Yeah, but you see, that's the word, isn't it? Are they a vigilante? These guys are giving the information to the police, so you could argue that they're doing a good thing.
Are the police grateful?
I would imagine so. I mean, I imagine 6 or 7 convictions of paedophiles would make anybody pleased,
and
to be
that's
fair.
what it is, it's convictions.
Yeah, some people will say they shouldn't be taking the law into their own hands. They're giving that information out. So the show's about the internet, that side, also the dark web. I knew nothing about the dark web. Do you know you can buy... I mean, you can buy a gun, you can buy a passport, you can buy drugs, you can buy absolutely anything. Obviously, bullying online. And really, the perspective of the internet touches all of our lives, but, you know, there are concerns with it for our kids, for families as well. And, you know, as a parent, you know, you don't know what's going on, do you?
You spend a lot of time on this show, and indeed on your other shows, getting under the sort of underbelly of England in many ways, and getting to the reality of the sharp end of life for people, most of whom, you know, don't have much privilege, don't have much wealth. They're leading real lives in real England, real Britain. What is your take on the state of the country right now?
I always said years ago when we started this that I mean, my upbringing was very solid, and you know, we would all... people laugh at me. We'd eat dinner together. We'd go on holidays together. I think the family unit isn't today what it was before. There's all sorts of reasons for that. That's not a criticism. People's lives are different. People's jobs are different. The pressure of, you know, all sorts of people having to do all sorts of different things. It started for me as a kid with the family unit. I think it's a different world, Piers. I think people want to achieve different things. People don't stick at things as long, and I think we need to protect our kids. I've always thought that. You know, nobody's an ideal great parent, are they? But this, you know, the internet... I'm completely... I don't know about the internet, so for me it was really interesting.
You're not even on Twitter, are you?
Well, I don't really understand that, to be honest with you. You know, absolutely. I mean, I'm 50, I don't 40-10.
What is the dark net?
So the dark web,
yeah.
We went to meet one of the most well-known security experts who runs this organisation out of a university in Warwick, and you can literally, I mean, you'd know about this, you can buy a new identity, Susanna. You can buy drugs, you can buy a gun.
Machine guns, whatever you want.
You can buy a machine gun.
But you can do that on the internet. But what is
the dark web?
It's
people working with encryptions, it's people hiding stuff.
It's supposed to be impossible to find, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a whole world on the internet. It's what terrorists use, it's what ISIS use, and these guys to communicate. It's a kind of web within the web, if you like. It's very hard for ordinary people to access.
It shouldn't be accessible, and he shows on the show, he shows, you know, how... And people are doing it. I mean, and that is frightening. You talk about...
You also get into drugs and to guns and other hot-button issues in Britain right now. America's far more down the road on these kind of things. Are you worried about, particularly, say, with guns in Britain, with violence, with armed...
Of course, and I think it's really easy, and I get this. And when I was doing the show, you speak to police forces and stuff like that. They're doing a great job, but there's this lack of desire to say there are guns on the streets, there are knives, there are drug dealers and people with drugs all over the place. And I go back to it again and again. You're in a slightly difficult position, aren't you? If you jump up and down and say this is going on, they go, oh, you're frightening people. No, let's be realistic. I've got 4 kids. I want to know if people are selling the drugs on the street. I want to know if you can go and buy a gun. And for me, it was a really interesting series because I found out quite a lot, to be fair.
Do you know one of the things that really worries me is this thing about no snitching? That people, particularly teenagers, feel that they can't tell when something happens.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
there's this kind of bond of trust, of no snitching.
I think being a teenager must be really difficult nowadays. I'm being completely honest. There's a part tonight as well. An amazing woman who lost her son. I mean, he took his own life because he was bullied online. I mean, that's frightening as well.